Hello, we'll start in 1 minute. I just had to change batteries on that clock. So it looks like everybody is here. All right, I am going to call this meeting to order at 7:33 p.m. on March 1st, 2022. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to remain standing for a moment of silence, which the council will be doing in solidarity and in honor of our sisters and brothers in Ukraine tonight. Our thoughts are with them during tonight's brief moment of silence, but also we will carry them into our thoughts and in our hearts as we venture through these dark days. So if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing. Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. May I please have roll call?
Alderman Hill.
Oh, I'm not getting.
Here.
I'm sorry. I had to stop because I cannot hear anybody.
Can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Just officially, Barbara, you're the only one here. People are actually wearing their jackets.
I hope you're not finding your time playing nice because you think I'm going away.
Mike, your mic is on.
I'm on the phone with Andrea. She's trying to hear me. This is a test. No? So if everyone can just hold tight for a minute, Andrea is calling our IT department. Okay, Andrea's asking me to
Got
say, okay.
Sorry about that. I was teaching all day and on it, and it was no problem until just now. So I have no idea what happened, but. May I please have roll call from the beginning, because I missed all of that?
Alderman Hill,
Here.
Alderman Frankel,
Here.
Alderman Scott Childress,
Present.
Alderman Worthington,
Here.
Alderman Muhammad,
Here.
Alderman Davis,
Here.
Alderman Oliveri,
Here.
Alderman Shabbat,
Here.
Alderman Hirsch.
Here.
I have a quorum. Can I have a motion to dispense with the minutes of the previous meeting? And a
Motion.
motion by Tony Davis, second by Rennie Scott Childress. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 9-0. Can I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the general bills?
Motion.
Motion by Steve Shabbat, second by Michael Oliveri. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 9-0. I would like to now invite our majority leader, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, to address the council and the public for the annual majority leader address. Rita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, good evening. I'd like to thank those who may be viewing for your patience. We had to delay our speech because of equipment failure. However, I am told that these issues will be remedied soon, hopefully. That being said, I'd also like to convey my thanks and gratitude to Minority Leader Michael Oliveri, who offered to delay his speech so I can give mine in the presence of an in-person audience. I am hopeful that by the time he gives his speech, we will be back in council chambers. To the council members that I serve with, thank you for this opportunity, as well as your support in choosing me as your majority leader. I am humbled by the honor and look forward to serving alongside with each of you. I'm here this evening because the community that I represent had enough faith in me to put me in office. A girl born in the Queen City of the Hudson, Poughkeepsie, New York, that is. A girl who, as a young adult, made many mistakes. A girl who has had to endure many struggles and heartbreaks. The latest of which was the loss of my dear husband, Paul. He truly was my champion and my biggest supporter. And right now, I would give just about anything to see the look on his face. I am also that girl who over time connected with a quaint, diverse city just north of the Hudson River, bounded by the majestic Catskills and Shawangunk mountain ranges. My history with Kingston is long. My tenure dates back some 30 years. My first real job was here in Kingston. I bought my first home in Kingston, and I became woven in the very fabric of the community for which I serve. Before we reach the age of adulthood, we are often asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Most times a litany of answers follow to the tune of doctor, police officer, firefighter, teacher, etc. For as long as I could remember, I watched in awe as my mother would get up every night, put on her pristine white dress, white stockings, and white shoes to head out to Benedictine Hospital, where she worked as a psychiatric nurse's aide. I don't know if my mother loved the overnight shift, but I was amazed at her work ethic, her desire to make sure her children had a roof over their heads and food on their table. My mother was my hero. And I want to take this time to thank all of our healthcare workers, our fire and rescue workers, police officers, and every essential worker who sacrificed their livelihoods so you and I could live safely. As respectable as my mother's profession was, I did not follow in her footsteps. However, I knew from a young age that I had an inclination and yearning to help people. That yearning, no doubt, came from my mother. You see, growing up, we didn't have much, but what we did have, my mother shared with the community. I watched how she advocated for the motherless child, the man or woman dealing with housing and food insecurities, Being an eyewitness to that type of selflessness only ignited the call and desire I had to speak out on behalf of the voiceless and for the rights of the vulnerable. I believe this is why I became a family law paralegal. Helping families navigate through the difficult familial struggles and was rewarding, but I knew that I wanted and could do more. The thought of running for government office never occurred to me. It was far from any plans I had. The old saying rings true. If you want to see God smile, tell him your plans. When I was approached about running as my ward's representative, my first thought was, I don't think so. I'd really have to think about that. But then I began speaking to the people in my ward. I listened to how many felt as if they were being left out of decisions governing their lives, how they wanted safer neighborhoods and communities, streets paved and plowed. They told me they wanted someone who looked like them making decisions for them, someone who could relate to situations in which they found themselves. So I committed to local government. In the State of the City address, the mayor spoke about Kingston as being resilient. Resilience, the capacity to recover from difficulties. Really, isn't that what we're trying to do? Recover? 2020 and 2021 saw many tragedies, heartbreaks, and misfortunes. We watched how COVID-19 impacted not only our city, but our nation, socially and economically. We got knocked down because the world, in essence, shut down. Gun violence tore through our city. Displacement and gentrification became commonplace. Last month's ice storm, which left tens of thousands without electrical power and heat, showed us how little control we have. But we were resilient. We hunkered down and we did what we had to do to make sure ourselves and our neighbors were safe. We organized and came up with a plan to keep our streets safe. We rallied against those who wanted to take away our voices. We watched as businesses and communities came together to help those in distress. Indeed, we were resilient. And as a result, we've seen some successes. The Streetscape project is progressing. Streets were paved. The Hudson Brickyard Trail opened. Upgrades to our parks and rec department. Re-envisioned public safety task force was formed. The acquisition of video cameras for public safety measures. The formation of the Arts and Cultural Plan, and many other accomplishments for which we should be proud. However, we cannot rest on our accomplishments, but we must continue in that resilient way. How? By making sure that we follow through with the promises we have made, by holding true to the initiatives that we have laid out concerning affordable housing, community policing, common sense tenant protections, citywide infrastructure, fixing our zoning code, and finally, balancing out the social, economic, educational, and environmental inequities that still continue. We also want to prioritize having an open and transparent government, because open governance ensures an environment of participation, sustainability, and accountability. Affordable housing. Housing is a basic human need. Everyone deserves a decent and affordable place to live. Studies have shown that affordable housing uplifts residents, encourages social connection, reduces overcrowding, increases adjacent property values, attracts businesses and jobs, and lowers crime rates. It is my belief that the City of Kingston should use every resource available to make sure the promise to house and keep residents in their homes is met. Toward that end, I am pleased to see the City of Kingston's recently published American Rescue Plan Act, which identified a highly stressed housing environment and included a consensus that the ARPA investments should be directed to broadly enhancing the housing environment. Community policing. I do want to commend our Kingston Police Department for listening to community residents and community leaders express the necessity of community policing. We have read study after study which show how community-oriented policing improves attitudes towards police. We will continue to meet and collaborate with law enforcement to improve community relations and ensuring public safety for all residents. It is my hope that as we continue, we will begin to see a more diverse police department that reflects the diverse community that we serve. Tenant protections. I am hopeful that the good cause legislation passed by this council will fundamentally protect against unfair evictions and predatory rent increases, which will in turn stabilize communities. This legislation will also curb speculation by making it more difficult for large investors to flip rental housing and hike up the rents. Citywide infrastructure. We have an ambitious schedule. I am pleased that infrastructure is taking place across our city and not just held to certain areas. For too long, there have been neighborhoods and communities who have felt they were not a part of the city's planning. However, as laid out in the city's budget this year, infrastructure improvements will occur in all three districts, uptown, midtown, and downtown. The citywide rezoning. The citywide rezoning initiative is in effect. We must keep this as a top priority as it is a tool to control growth and development. However, with control comes constraints and regulations that tend to reduce the supply of housing, including multifamily and low-income housing, causing housing affordability. And because of those drawbacks, we must make sure the rezoning is done correctly and it is seen through completion. Diversity balance. I believe a better future can be obtained by making our city more inclusive. In order to do this, we must have more voices involved in the process. In the beginning of my speech, I told you the reason why I'm here, because of the trust and the belief in the community I serve. This evening, I am also here on the first day of Women's History Month as Kingston City Common Council Majority Leader. Although not the first woman to hold the position, the first person of color to hold the position. And while I am honored to be the first, it is a reminder of how far we still need to go. This is why I implore more persons of color to get involved in your local and city government. Diversity and inclusion in local government is important because it creates more opportunities for a city to better connect with its community. If residents feel they are understood and see that they are truly being represented, they are typically more likely to participate in the civic life of their community and engage in local government activities. Resilience, the capacity to recover from difficulties. I can almost assure you that there will be more difficulties ahead, but if we commit to moving forward together, I am confident that we can create a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive city that works for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was a lot of loud clapping, by the way. You just couldn't hear it. That was great, Rita. Thank you.
I'll have to listen to the recording.
We're now entering into the public speaking portion of the meeting. We have allotted 30 minutes for this purpose. If you would like to sign up, you could do so in the chat. If you've already reached out to the clerk, your name is on the list. We have allotted 30 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes, and I will set up the clock so you can see the countdown. If there are remaining speakers after the 30-minute window, I will call for a motion from the council to extend the period for another 30 minutes. Speakers, please direct your comments to the chair as council members cannot engage in debate during this time. Please do state your name and address on the record before you address the council. There shall be no distractions when a speaker is addressing the council. The Common Council has also received written comments for their consideration, and they could be found on the city's website under tonight's agenda. I'll just set up the clock. That good? Thumbs up, thumbs down? You got it? All right. Can I have the first speaker, please?
Tim Guinea.
Hello.
Hi, Tim. Go ahead.
Okay. My name's Tim Guinea. First of all, thank you all for your service. I actually am a resident of Stone Ridge. I live at 65 Tooley Drive, Stone Ridge, 12484. Along with Reverend Dr. Gregory Simpson, I was the co-founder of the Hudson Valley Environmental Justice Coalition. I'm the legislative action coordinator for former Vice President Al Gore's Climate Reality Project in New York. I'm the legislative strategist for Climate Action Now, and I'm a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences Commission on Accelerating Climate Solutions. And I'm here to just say that I really hope that you will support the climate plan. My friend Rita talked about resilience and the importance of resilience and the great challenge we faced during the ice storm. Any view of the IPCC report that just came out, or the other report that came out this week that detailed increased wildfire effects, we're in a rapidly degrading situation. Resiliency is going to demand a lot more than we have right now. And it is vital that, that Kingston and other municipalities step forward and take action, because we're in a place right now where our federal government seems to be abdicating responsibility in this crisis. I was lucky enough to give my opinions and ideas to the creation of this thing, like so many people were, and I hope you'll give it serious consideration, and I thank you very much for your time and your service.
Our next speaker is Emily Hauser.
Can you wait? This clock is being very temperamental today. So just.
Hello, my name is Emily Hauser. I live at 63 Highland Avenue in Kingston,
Emily.
New York.
Emily, hold on
Yep.
1 minute. We're trying to fix our clock, and it looks like it might be corrected. Just give us 1 second.
Emily,
Okay,
you can help.
Okay, my name is Emily Hauser. I live in Kingston, New York at 63 Highland Avenue. And I am speaking for myself, but I am the chair of the Conservation Advisory Council for the City of Kingston. And in my role as a member, years ago, we wrote and were very involved in the first climate action plan. So I'm just talking today to encourage the Common Council to adopt the climate action plan, because this new climate action plan, which is for Climate Action Plan 2030, because it just builds on all the work that the City of Kingston and its dedicated citizens have done in the past, and will move us forward to a more sustainable and healthy place to live. This impacts me as a citizen because I am happy to live in such a location. I know most of the people that were on the project advisory committee, and I know that they are very dedicated, hardworking, intelligent, well-informed people that worked on this climate action plan and brought it to fruition. And I am aware that both Rennie Scott Childress and Rita Worthington were on that project advisory committee. So I'm just at moving forward and being very interested in a healthy environment and a sustainable community. I urge you to adopt the climate action plan. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, actually, Gloria, just wait 1 second. We're trying
Sure.
to reset the clock and Andrea will tell you when to begin.
Okay. I should play Jeopardy music, right? Da, 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 da. Hello, all my friends. I was just at I just saw Elliot Orbach. I was at a Russian kind of a protest and support for the Ukrainians.
The clock is just not, I can't get it. Not gonna work. I'll use my phone.
Get
So.
the metronome. We'll do the metronome.
I do have one of those handy. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna put this on my phone.
Okay.
All right, so you have 3 minutes starting right now. Thank you very much for your patience.
Oh, no
Go
problem.
ahead.
Okay, so I know that this is going to be shocking to everybody, that my Parrots for Peace advocate for planetary peace. They have a motto, may there be peace with Mother Earth. She's a living being, right? Among all people, animals, and nature. Now, what that implies, and as their spokeshuman, advocating for whatever they tell me to advocate for, which is respect for all sentient life, we need to really understand what habitat looks like, whether it's urban or it's forest or it's desert or it's ocean or it's sky. We need to really protect, not to abuse what nature has given us. And the idea that we have a planet that is at risk is very terrifying to everybody. And the concept of being able to do something that is mindful of climate action, to do something progressive, like be respectful and live in balance, is really something I think everybody should do. This concept of develop everything, use fossil fuels, 24/7 diesel trucks, jobs and taxes, and all of the old ways haven't worked. And there's an Irish saying, I'm not Irish, but I say everything, that you can't really run the future based on the past. And we have an opportunity to do something that is meaningful, both for the young people in our community. And there's a Buddhist saying, probably, I think it's probably Buddhist, that if there's a forest fire and a little bird takes a couple of drops of water and puts the drops of water into the mouths of their babies in a nest, does that really do anything? Yes, it does. And lots of birds can come with drops of water. It's kind of like the old, the fireman bucket, right? A brigade. We need to each act in small ways. I mean, it does impact everything. It's a consciousness and it's an intention. And whether the ETs need to bail us out or whatever happens.
Lori, that's 30 seconds.
Okay, I say let's go with climate action. Parrots for Peace told me to tell you that.
Gloria, can you just say your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Gloria Waslin. I have two addresses. One is at Constance Rudd and Doug Coop's house, 149 Main Street, which is the legal address for parentsforpeace.org, Inc., a 501c3. And she's my treasurer. And my living address where the parents live is Post Office Box 241, Ruby, New York, 12475, and the street address, and they don't deliver, so nothing gets there, 1107 Main Street in Ruby, New York. Click your heels 3 times to get any kind of message to me.
Thank you, Gloria. Have a nice
You are
night.
welcome, Andrea. Hang tough, everybody. The whole world needs you all. Thank you. Love to everybody.
Next speaker, please.
Gerald Burke. And he needs
Gerald,
to,
Gerald, you just need to unmute yourself. You are in, we see your screen.
Yes, briefly. I
All right,
am
you have 3 minutes if you could just say your name and record, all righty?
Gerald Burke, B-E-R-K-E. I live at 26 Maiden Lane. That good?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the Climate Action Committee. I've been envious of some of the towns I've been to over the years. Wonder where that talent came from to create such stuff, and wondering, and I really didn't see it in Kingston much. The work that's been done on the Climate Action Committee and the Climate Action Plan is spectacular. The quality level of it is I can't say enough about it. It's comprehensive, it's far-reaching. It's a little scary because we aren't used to seeing such far-reaching things that demand consistency and competence and commitment. It's all there. You don't get this chance very often. I'm strongly in support of it. I can't imagine the council not passing it forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's the end of our speakers, right, Elisa?
yes.
Okay. So we are closing our public speaking portion of the meeting, now entering into claims and communications. Hearing no discussion, they will be on file in the clerk's office. Can I get a motion to dispense with the second reading of the general bills and pay same? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Michelle Hirsch. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is adopted 9-0. We now enter into the report of committees, starting with resolution number 31, and just make sure thumbs are up high in the screen or down, just so I could see it clearly. Thank you. Resolution number 31, please.
Resolution 31 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the amount of $5,343 in the sewer fund in accordance with the increase, in accordance with the increased section of the Management Confidential Handbook adopted by council. I'm just checking this number. Yes, that's correct.
All right, on the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 32, please.
Resolution 32 of 2021. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the general fund budget to allocate contingency funds for pay increases in the CSCA Memorandum of Agreement adopted by Common Council on December 29th, 2021, in the amount of $825,762.
On the question? Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
Thank you, President Schott. I'd like to take this opportunity to praise the work that our CSCA workers do. They do a wide variety of things for the city, and without them, the city simply would not function. They do some of the most important work to keep the city going, to provide for our daily comforts. as well as helping immeasurably in times of danger and stress, as in the recent snowfall and the ice storm before that. Recently, under Ed Norman, they've improved their cleanup in snowstorms. They clearly are looking for ways to always improve the work they do, even under quite straitened circumstances with many fewer members than they used to have 10, 15 years ago. So I'm proud to vote for this so that we can increase the salaries of our CSEA workers and demonstrate in this small way our appreciation for everything that they do.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carl, was that thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay. Resolution is adopted 9-0. If you could just keep them up, because it does take me about 10 seconds to scroll through. Thank you. Moving to resolution 33, please.
Resolution 33 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the sewer funds budget to allocate contingency funds for pay increases in CSEA Memorandum of Agreement adopted by the Common Council December 29th, 2021.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 34, please.
Resolution 34 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the amount of $131,594 in the general fund to allocate funds in accordance with the increases section of the Management Confidential Handbook adopted by Council.
On the question, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
Thank you, President Schott. This is a follow-up to our concern in the mayor's proposed budget for the year, which did not increase salary for some of our Management Confidential employees. So we're very happy, I'm very happy at least, to make it possible to increase the salaries of all of them. They are amazing workers for the city. They do an incredible amount under a lot of stress. A lot of times it's a mountain of paperwork that they're dealing with. It's all kinds of public interaction that they have to deal with. And they make it work really well and make it seem easy. So I'd just like to appreciate all of the Management Confidential workers who run our departments and who assist in the running of those departments, so that in this way, as we did before, we can express our appreciation. We're glad too that the discussions from the budget negotiations last year led to a negotiation between Management Confidential and the mayor to come to an outcome that they are all satisfied with. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 35, please.
Resolution 35 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the amount of $85,628 for mid-year personnel adjustments.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 36, please.
Resolution 36 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the amount of $10,524 to reconcile employee benefit accounts.
On the question? Seeing no discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 37, please.
Resolution 37 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2021 general fund transfer in the amount of $500,000 to reconcile employee benefits accounts on a year-to-date basis as per attached.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to Resolution 38, please.
Resolution 38 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the building maintenance budget for carryover of unspent grant monies from NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Grant Project in the amount of $20,450.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to Resolution 39, please.
Resolution 39 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $8,860 for unencumbered rec fee reserve funds for use in the construction of Kingston Point Park Playground.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to Resolution number 40, please.
Resolution 40 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $86,840 in the Midtown Neighborhood Center Capital Improvements line to advance the solar installment project.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to Resolution 41, please.
Resolution 41 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a transfer from contingency to the police department budget in the amount of $81,500 to fund the retirement accumulation account from retirement buyouts of 2 police officers.
On the question? Here, Alderman Tony Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to, at this time, just to commend the 2 officers who are retiring and thank them for their service to the City of Kingston.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to Resolution number 42.
Resolution 42 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 fund balance transfer in the police department budget in the amount of $150,000 and to transfer $225,000 of grant monies provided by the NYPA Smart City Technology Grant to expand the current use of license plate readers in and around the City of Kingston.
On the question? Alderman Steve Shabbat and then Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. Alderman Shabbat.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple items. First, I'd really like to commend Chief Tinty. When this came about, there were a lot of questions going around the city. What are we going to do? And, what are we going to do with this crime spree? And, answers were tough to come by, but I was glad to see the chief do something proactive like the license plate readers. I think it's going to be I think it's going to help them solve crime. And after a while, if a few crimes are solved, I think it's going to be a big deterrent to crime in the area. The second item, I just want to, make note here that we have already approved this. We're not really voting on the license plate readers per se. We're voting on paying for them. They're very close to being installed and put to use. So we have to pay for them now. So, this is simply a vote to transfer funds, to pay for this. So that being said, I will certainly be voting for it.
Thank you, Steve. Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, please.
Thank you, President Schott. I'm just going to say that this is the 3rd year in a row that we've had to pass the money over for the purchase of the license plate readers, and I'm still a no vote based on my opinion that these are a violation of people's civil liberties. Thank you.
Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
I'd like to join in Steve Shabbat's appreciation there, but note too that Julie Noble deserves a lot of credit for this. She's the one, I think, who found the grant and worked with the police chief to get it done. And I think this will be a valuable addition to the tools that our police department has because it only looks at license plates. It does not look at drivers. It does not get into people's personal business in that sense. So I'm perfectly comfortable with the installation of these new tools for our police force.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? All right, the vote was 7-2. The opposition votes or dissent votes were Alderwoman Rochelle Hirsch and Alderwoman Rita Worthington. Resolution passes 7-2. Moving to resolution 43, please.
Resolution 43 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the Housing Department in the amount of $275,000 provided by the ADLN grant to fund the tiny home project.
On the question, Alderwoman Rita Worthington. Rita, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. First, I just want to congratulate the team and the housing director on coming up with this initiative, all those that he worked with for the tiny home project. However, I am just a little concerned, though, about the community engagement that went into this project. I will vote yes on this. I do think that this is going to help with our homeless population, and certainly we are living in a housing crisis. But back to the community engagement part of it, you know, it is my hope that going forward, when projects like this come about, the community is more engaged and more hands-on. You know, we're going to be placing these tiny homes in essentially residential neighborhoods. So I think that the community should have been involved. You know, engagement in the community is how public officials and decisions make what citizens want and need. So it's important. You know, as I said in my speech, it helps to facilitate sustainable solutions, and it also creates a sense of ownership. So while I'm a yes on this, I just want to just go on record just saying that I think we need to do a better job in getting our community involved in these initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the question? Alderwoman Rochelle Hirsch.
Thank you, President Schott. I will be recusing myself from the vote due to my employment with Family of Woodstock. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-0. Moving to resolution number 44, please.
Resolution 44 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, requesting a 2022 transfer in the Housing Department in the amount of $297,000 to fund the zombie property project funded by the LISC grant and City Rehabilitation project funded by New York State Restore grants.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 45, please.
Resolution 45 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, adopting the Arts and Culture Master Plan 2022.
On the question, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
Thank you. I'd like to offer appreciation for our former arts director, Addie Farr, for all the work that she put into getting this plan going, and also thank the members of the Arts Council who did so much work, our Arts Commission who did so much work to put this together. I think they worked in a really wonderfully inclusive way, really bringing in different parts of the arts community here to develop a powerful plan that's going to be great, not just for the aesthetic elements of our city, but for the business of our city. We used to be, of course, a place with industry back when IBM was here. But now, through this Arts and Culture Master Plan, we're going to be able to help real producers, real creators on a smaller level, but folks who are going to do some wonderful work that I think will really improve the quality of life in the city, both economically and artistically. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 46, please.
Resolution 46 of 2022. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, adopting the Climate Action Plan 2030.
On the question, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress.
Thank you,
And
Madam
then-
President. With your forbearance, and I realize that I do have a limit of time to speak, I am concerned with this piece of legislation. We got it only really 2 weeks ago. We've had 2 weeks to look at it. In that time, I've done a lot of work, a lot of soul searching, a lot of interviews with people who are involved in the process. And I got to say, I'm disappointed with this plan. I'm concerned about the process, and I am mad at myself. This plan is fine in itself, but it is insufficient. What it leaves out is deeply concerning to me. In my discussions with the various members of the PAC, it seemed like it was very consultant driven. One member of the PAC characterized the work of the main consultant as technocratic. This plan focuses a lot on what the city and relatively well-off residents can do to reduce greenhouse gases. For example, it calls for developing EV charging stations. It suggests ways the city government can reduce production of greenhouse gases. Each of these are fine and important in themselves. But such goals, to a great extent, ignore the key elements of social justice. The United Nations has provided 17 key principles of sustainability. Several relate to the climate. Sustainable cities, for example, affordable and clean energy. Others make clear that these climate principles must be interwoven with others, such as decent work and economic growth and reduced inequalities. This plan before us tonight pays scant attention to these latter principles. For example, the term equity appears 41 times in the document, but there is a fundamental misunderstanding of the meaning of equity here because they actually use it to mean equality. Equity does not mean equality. It means raising up those who have suffered, those who have been traditionally marginalized, those who work hard but can't get ahead because of low wages and high rents. At page 54, for example, under the heading Participation and Equity, with a subheading of community-wide participation, the explanation reads, this strategy will serve all segments of the population. Increased access to the bus system can benefit the entire community by providing equal opportunity for all. That's equality, not equity. There are several such misuses of this term. The use at page 36 does suggest rectifying some effects on the frontline communities and individuals, but what the report means by these terms is not really spelled out. In short, the misuse of the term equity demonstrates how far this document is from addressing the historically underserved and marginalized who have been traditionally ignored in the environmental movement. At least one point, the plan engages in the sort of paternalism that has for too long marked the environmental movement. An implementation step at page 47 suggests working with, quote, local champions or other trusted organizations to help spread the message, particularly to frontline communities. This suggestion is paternalism pure and simple. It assumes that people who live in frontline communities are unaware of the climate crisis, are unaware of the ways pollution and its effects and the effects of climate warming are affecting themselves. It assumes that they have to be educated about the dangers they face. Think how different this plan might have been if we compare it with one that was developed specifically with social justice in mind and with a greater participation of what they call frontline communities and individuals. Consider the Providence, Rhode Island Climate Justice Plan. The table of contents, for example, has such chapters as, quote, climate justice, equitable process for equitable outcomes, collaborative governance and accountability. As that document points out, the climate justice plan should take into account the different and asymmetrical ways various communities have suffered from the havoc wreaked by the burning of fossil fuels and other pollutants. In Providence and around the world, the plan notes, for example, people of color have contributed least to the climate crisis, yet they are disproportionately burdened by the polluting industries that are causing climate change and other environmental degradation. The plan looks closely at how certain neighborhoods with predominantly low-income communities suffer asthma at greater rates than residents in other parts of the city. It takes into account the costs of medicine, hospital treatment, and continuing care for this climate-related disease. I have provided a link to the Providence Climate Justice Plan to my fellow council members so you may look at it in greater detail. Unfortunately, it was only today that one of the members of the PAC gave me this link. I wish we'd had more time to discuss this whole issue so we could have this comparison. So this sort of emphasis on local health outcomes and costs is missing from the plan before us tonight. In terms of process, the process called for creating a group of 15 area residents, some of whom are not actually Kingston residents. I spoke with 6 of them since the presentation of the plan, laws and rules. None of them attended all 5 meetings. I know that it's always difficult to get everybody to all the meetings, but I gathered that there was a sense that the process was too consultant driven. Several men said that it felt rushed. One member recalls proposing they take more time, but it seemed there was some kind of invisible deadline to meet. This member said that the whole process felt performative. The hard copy was placed in our mailboxes only hours before the Laws and Rules Committee was to deliberate on accepting the report. Now we hear that it would be a slap in the face if we were to send it back to committee to consider it deliberately. I fear that the process was not really adequately inclusive. The project manager claimed to us the other night that the city consulted an array of community groups. She pointed out that there's an appendix listing 29 such groups. I have spoken with directors or representatives of 5 of these. I wish I had had the time to get in touch with more, but in the few that I talked to, none reported being involved in the process of developing the plan. At best, a couple remember being contacted about the plan. They were made aware of its development, but none became involved in the plan's creation. Above that, it wasn't involving adequately. There were a couple of focus groups that were held, but nowhere near the number a plan such as this that affects all residents so intimately should have. We were told that there were letters sent to every household in the city of Kingston. This was confirmed by a member of Citizens for Local Power. And I have no doubt that the letter went out, but I have asked over 20 people whether they remember receiving it. I have yet to get a single confirmation, even from members of the city's transitions group who focus on environmental issues. As one of the PAC members said to me, the 200 people who responded were people who were already, quote unquote, inside the bubble. Look, I know that outreach is difficult, but we can improve the process if we make our invitations more intentional and if we begin with those people who have been most affected by inequitable practices. I know too that those who were trying to do the outreach of this plan were greatly hampered by the COVID crisis. They were thus able to hold only a couple of focus groups, many fewer than they had planned to hold. But if the planning had approached outreach in a completely different way, what then? If we look at the Providence report, we see that their process began by making frontline community members the primary decision makers in the process. They began with a community-led education and training and energy democracy plan. They then engaged in peer-led interviews of frontline community members. They designed solutions based on the priorities and concerns of those folks. They provided a mechanism for community-wide reflection and action by developing citizen-created future stories. Think how different our report would be if we had comprised the committee this way and started the process this way. Let me just give you a little taste from the plan's vision statement. They say, Providence's vision for a low-carbon future is one where your race or zip code no longer determines your health or economic outcomes, where decisions are made collectively to allow those who are most impacted to have the greatest say, where land stewardship is valued over ownership, where access to clean water and land is not just a luxury for the wealthy, but a fundamental human right. This plan will set a path for Providence, but it is up to the residents and businesses in the city to make sure that we take it. In June of 2021, I had a brief exchange with another member of the PAC about the city of Cleveland working closely with low-income residents in developing their action plan. I spoke with the director of Citizens for Local Power about creating intentional invitations to involve a wide array of city residents in the planning, particularly those that we're now calling frontline community residents. I voiced my concerns in this regard at the first PAC meeting, but somewhere along the way, I dropped the ball. I should have dug in my heels and fought for a change in direction and for a greater inclusion of more city residents, especially those who we have traditionally marginalized in such processes. I did not have the courage of my convictions, and I am deeply sorry for that. I will vote no, not because of what is in this plan. There's a lot of good stuff in the plan, but because of what is not in it. I do not see in it social justice. I do not see in it true equity. I do not see in it a truly inclusive community process. But I do see a positive outcome down the line. We members of the previous Common Council bear some of the responsibility for the way this plan has come about. We did not specify the sort or level of community engagement we wanted to see. We did not have a substantive conversation with the program manager to consider the types of data and emphasis we wanted it to have. So I hope that, like we discussed last night, we on this Common Council can develop, out of reviewing the process here, better ways to direct city projects so that they include residents in the formational stages, develop clear and consistent means of communication and feedback, and enable residents to become the primary creators of our city. I thank you for listening.
Thank you. Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, your hand was up before.
Yes, thank you, President Schott. I think that this plan is an important step forward for the health and well-being of Kingston citizens, especially our children. Every step that we can take to lessen our carbon footprint is vital. While that plan may not have specific data, it's well known the effects of the carbon footprint on children with lower respiratory infections, effect on anyone with allergies. Cities occupy 3% of the Earth's land, but account for 2/3 of the world's energy demand and 70% of our carbon emissions. During a time when we're seeing more and more freak storms and fuel prices are soaring, anything that can be done to help create energy cost savings for the community is equally important. I have unanimous support from my Ward 9 constituents, and I am a strong yes vote. I just have to say that we are all liaisons to various boards and commissions, and my understanding is that Alderman Childress, Brenda Scott Childress, was on the Climate Smart Action Committee and up until December. So I'm just surprised that this is coming up now. Thank you.
Anybody else with a question? Alderwoman Rita Worthington.
Thank you, Madam President. Wow. So this came out of Laws and Rules, and I was a yes in passing this through. I was also on that advisory board for the Climate Action Plan. However, a lot of those meetings I did not attend because of the time, and you know, that's my fault. That maybe I should bear some responsibility for not being involved as I should have been involved. However, you know, when I saw the plan come through Laws and Rules, I looked at the appendix and saw all of the organizations that the project manager said they had contacted, and I took her word for it. Why wouldn't I? And a lot of those organizations involved organizations of color. And again, I took her word for it, but listening to Alderman Scott Childress, it's evident he did his research on this. And I actually feel a little bad because I passed it through, I said yes on this, and now hearing all this, he's completely right when he says that the social justice element needs to be in there. The environmental injustice to persons of colors is overwhelming, although we are not the ones that create it. And so I am deeply, deeply, deeply conflicted with this plan and moving forward on it. Right now, I'm on the fence. I'm not a yes or a no right now, but maybe by the time we get to the end of this resolution process, I may have an answer for it. So again, I'm conflicted.
Thank you, Rita. Alderwoman Barbara Hill, and then Alderman Carl Frankel. Barbara?
Hi, everyone. Hey, this is a tough one. And thank you, Rennie, for bringing forth what you said tonight. Also, I wish I'd had the time to read what you put forward from the other community. I think, you know, a lot of my life I've worked in public health, and, you know, just seeing the health disparities back in the day, you know, in the South Bronx, and the impacts of the poor neighborhoods that are near to the highways that go through and cut through communities, and the so it's always been part of my consciousness. Yeah, I'm conflicted. I think that last evening we talked about having some sort of, you know, having more of a discussion about what expectations we have in terms of plans or projects, and how we engage the community. So I look forward to more of that. I have to say, as a new alderman, I was not involved in any of the committees or, you know, the actual participative processes, if there were any. I am quite a stickler for community engagement. So, you know, it's disheartening to think that some of, you know, some who have been involved didn't think that happened. So, I don't know how I'm going to vote right at the moment. I don't really want to hold this plan up. I wish there was a way to have an addendum to it. If it was passed, you know, some way to incorporate some more feedback. So that's what I have to say, but I'm really appreciative of the depths to which some of us really do research and are thoughtful about the processes regarding plans like this.
Thank you. Alderman Carl Frankel? You're muted, please. Can you unmute?
There, sorry about that. Thanks, Madam President. I'm surprised at the direction this conversation is taken. It has been my understanding that there was unanimous appreciation and support of the action plan, and that it would not be challenged at this deep level and in this deep way. And I only ask my fellow Common Council members to consider this. As I understand it, subject to being corrected, this is an up or down vote. We either approve it or we don't. If we don't approve it, for whatever reason, we will not have a climate action plan. We will move from the head of the class to the back of the class. This is profoundly concerning to me, deeply worrisome, and really puts me emotionally in a place where I think, is this really how we're going to govern in this city? Is this really how we want to do this? We're going to walk away from a dramatically powerful climate change plan. And we've heard people say that here because of this real consideration, a real consideration I would add, where it is not at all clear to me what it was, and I still take the claims of the people who wrote the report at face value until really proven otherwise. So I really ask the people who are voting here to really think, what happens if we vote this down? It will be a disaster. It will be a disaster for the city. It will be shameful for us as a common council. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, and just so you know, you have only 5 minutes left on your clock.
Right. I just want to quickly say, I also perhaps perversely do not hope that this gets voted down. I stated my own opinion and my own reason, but I don't see any reason why we can't also try to envision some other process that is more engaging, like what we can see in the Providence, Rhode Island approach, or some of the other ones. We just haven't had a chance to compare with some other cities. So I think if we do some more work, I'd be happy to be involved in doing that. I would be happy to work on looking at, either an addendum or something that adds into this. Like I said, I don't see anything objectionable within the plan. My concern is more about what I feel like was not in it.
Anyone else? Alderman Carl Frankel and then Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. Both you, this is the second time on the floor.
Thank you very much. I would only note that as of now, I can see the vote count going 6-3, which doesn't take a lot to move it to a no. So we are now having a conversation about whether it's a yes or a no. So I invite you, Rennie, to ask the question. You said you're a no. Are you really a no? Are you not a no? And I really ask you that, not rhetorically, because we're now getting to a point where we might lose this wonderful plan. And I do not want that to happen. Thank you. Thank you. That's it for now.
Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, President Schott. I just want to say that by definition, climate action is social action. While it may not say social justice in the report, by definition, the outcomes of the report are then a social justice issue. Thank you.
Anybody else? Alderwoman Rita Worthington.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me also say that I think that the climate action plan is very important as well. And the city of Kingston can be a leader in getting this plan to the forefront. And so I think it's important. Alderman Frankel, I don't know if he included me in that no vote, but I thought I said I was conflicted on it. And so it is important, and I don't want to see this get voted down. However, I am concerned about some of the issues that Alderman Scott Childress raised. I mean, we heard him, he did his research. And so there's no reason for us not to believe that what he is saying is untrue. And so it is a concern, but that doesn't mean that I want to have this plan voted down. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. And so climate action is climate change is here, and it's important. And so I think that we just need to be careful and think very thoroughly on what we're doing. And because we are expressing our concerns on the record does not mean that we want it to fail. Thank you.
Anybody else on the question? Alderman Tony Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. And just listening to all that's been said from yesterday and today, I see both positives and negatives out of this plan. And the climate action plan, for the substance of it is very important, and that we move forward with this. And is there some negatives that if Alderman and Scott Childress says that he has spoken to people who don't recall and having much input that were listed in there. That is a concern. But I think we should be able to pass this plan. And then, as we discussed yesterday, to be able to put barriers or mechanisms in place in the future, and that these type of plans, and that that we have more input as a council and going forward on these plans. And so, as everybody stated, for the most part, and I don't think anybody wants to see this plan defeated and not pass forward. That there is some concerns about, some things that were placed in this plan and in this action plan. So I see positives and negatives out of this, and hopefully they can get moved forward. And again, in the future, and we can put some mechanisms in place that we would have some more input, and the community will have more input going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody else in the question? Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I certainly have some reservations about the lack of involvement, throughout the city with this. I mean, it's obviously, there was a lot of work put in this, obviously, and I appreciate that. And, I really don't have a lot of problem with that. It's just, I do have the issue with the lack of involvement. And as Renee and a couple other folks said, it's probably something we should be on the lookout for in the future, to make our wishes known. We didn't do that for this, but it is an important document, so I will be voting yes on it. I think it should go through. We can look at things later and talk with the committee about different issues. So I will be voting yes.
Hearing no more discussion, I will call for the vote. Just hold your thumbs up or down clearly so I could see them. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 8-1. The dissent was from Alderman Rennie Scott Childress. Moving to resolution 47, please.
Resolution 47 of 2022, excuse me. An ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, adding handicap parking on Fairview Avenue.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 48, please.
Resolution 48 of 2022. An ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, removing handicap parking at the municipal parking lot adjacent to the former visitor center at 20 Broadway.
On the question? Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules so that we could make a couple changes to the resolution. I did notice at the parking spot, it's labeled reserved parking. The resolution indicates handicap parking. I don't want to see any confusion down there because adjacent to the reserve spot, there are in fact 2 handicap spots. So I don't want to see the wrong thing removed here. So, we have discussed this and I'd like to see this reworded. I think that the resolution has been reworded. So I would like to make that motion.
All right, so there's a motion to suspend the rules. There's a second by Tony Davis. Any discussion on suspending the rules? I'll call for the vote. All in favor to suspend the rules? Opposed? Passes 9-0. Our rules are suspended. We are going to make that correction to change the word from handicap parking to reserved parking. Elisa has already done the work to correct the resolution. Right? We have that ready to go? Okay. So we will now go back in order to vote on the corrected resolution. So Elisa, can you read the corrected resolution 48, please?
Resolution 48 of 2022. An ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, removing reserved parking for visitor center volunteer at the municipal parking lot adjacent to the former visitor center at 20 Broadway.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 49, please.
Resolution 49 of 2022. An ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, removing handicap parking at 3 Westrum Street.
On the question, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. That concludes our communications for the evening. Before we adjourn, does anybody have any? Alderman Steve Shabbat.
Thank you. This may be a redundancy. At last month's meeting, I was cut off right before, right after the last vote, so I didn't get a chance to mention. And if somebody else did, forgive me. I know he's well known around here, but I saw this in a paper, right before the meeting, and I was quite saddened by the loss of a good friend, Del Lewis. So I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to close in memory of Del. I've known Del a long time, good buddy. I know his huge family. I know most of them, and his mom I knew really well. They lived around the corner from me for quite a while. He leaves behind a large family, well-involved family. Del was a member of the DPW workforce for a while, had several businesses. I was surprised to see him. I didn't know he was ill. So, I'm saddened by that, and I'll miss seeing Del.
Thank you. Anybody else? Alderwoman Rita Worthington and then Tony Davis.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to close the meeting in honor of a young man, Stephen Edwards. He just recently passed. Young man, he actually very good football player, and he also played basketball with my son in high school. And so it was a shock for me to read that Stevie, we called him Stevie, had passed because he was so young. He leaves behind a wealth of friends and family, and it's just such a tragedy, such a young life that was lost so soon. And so our thoughts and our prayers are certainly with his family. His memorial actually will be held on Friday at my home church, and so we want to close in memory of him tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Tony Davis and Michelle, I did see your hand up. So
Thanks,
Alderman
Madam
Tony.
President. And we'd like to close in memory of Jimmy Harris, James Harris, and 57 overall great man adopting farmer. I had opportunity to play football and run track with Jimmy through from junior high all the way through high school. And, he's very, very outgoing person. He was a graduate of Kingston High School and attended Ulster Community Colleges. He worked at Northern Duchess Hospital and in Rhinebeck. And again, he loves sports. He was just a great overall person. He leaves behind, and survived by his mom, Joan Harris of Kingston, sister Lynn Harris of Kingston, and Lori Knapp and her husband, Barry of Kingston. And he's preceded by his father and Mr. Harris, who and was a long time known person in Kingston. So Jimmy's going to be missed, and another person tragically lost from in COVID. And so I just wanted to close in memory of Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to close with appreciation to our community, our first responders, the Red Cross for coming in during the ice storm to set up the emergency warming shelter, and all of the linesmen that came from all over to help restore power in our community. Our community was deeply affected negatively during that storm for days on end, and it was great appreciation for everyone, everything that they did during that time. So thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing nothing else, I will hear a motion to adjourn, if anybody has one. Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Rita Worthington. All in favor to adjourn? Anybody opposed? We hereby stand adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting on April 5th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Thank you all and have a nice night.
Good night.